I hate soccer.
Yes. Yeah. You said it a few times, mentor.
Oh, it's huge.
Everybody wants to, some of my young coaches or who wants to start coaching, and they talk about licensing, and I am in support of, especially NSCA or USC licensing. I love that stuff.
Sure.
But I think a mentor is so much more important.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something so formal.
No.
It's not like, oh, I wrote this down, you're going to be my mentor on this day.
Exactly.
It's not that.
No.
My biggest coaching mentor is a guy named Brian Stoddard, who was the DOC at my first club job.
Okay.
I was coaching like 3 and 4 year old rec kids because my son was 3 playing like U5, right? And he was like, "Hey, you want to coach a select team in the fall?" I was like, "Yeah, maybe, whatever." And he goes, "We'll pay you $400 a month." I was like, "Wait, you get paid for this?"
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right.
And Brian's the one who actually, that's the thing he would always say is, we don't change, we do what we do better. That was his thing. So I take that from 25 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Brian started at my first club job. Greg Blassingame at Concord. A huge, huge role in my life was coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Curlick, Brian Moore, who's now at Charlotte, the C&L director at Charlotte. And those guys, not so much like they would take me aside and teach me anything, but they let me sit on their bench.
Bingo.
And I would go sit on their bench.
Yep.
And I would go every week, not just like, every now and then. I'd go every week.
Yeah.
I was coaching a second team at Concord, and I spent every weekend on Brian's bench with the ECNL team, on Greg's bench with the DA boys, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, I love licensing courses. I've done every one I could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Love them. But I've learned more sitting on other coaches' benches in my life than I've ever learned in a course. Not to say I haven't learned so much in courses, because I have. And had some great, coaching mentors in those as well.
Yeah.
But sitting on coaches' benches and seeing how they operate in the game, and seeing how they adjust and how they do things. Honestly, sometimes they do things I'd be like, yeah, I'd done it a different way. And that's just as valuable.
Absolutely.
I don't like how you did that, but in my head I would have done da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then when I got my game and we were in a similar situation, maybe I tried my thing.
Right.
And maybe I was right, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have done it that way. I think so often young coaches just don't follow through as much, because every coach I've ever asked has been like, yeah, come sit with me. Everyone. I don't think I've ever had a coach be like, nah. And that includes, coaches working in the pros. That includes college coaches when I wasn't a college coach. Yeah, come see a practice session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, come on. Like coaches in general, I found the community to be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, come sit with us. Come see what it is. Sure, no problem. But how often somebody will ask you that and then they don't show up, or they show up once and then you don't see them anymore. When I tell you I was on the bench every week. If I had an empty practice slot, I'd go watch Brian's girls train. I'd go watch Greg train the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because I wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it. I was just obsessed with it. And I don't know that you have to be obsessed, but it helps.
I think that's exactly how I started. My biggest mentor was Matt Pokovitz, and he used to be at Vardar, but then he started his own club, and I went to go work with him. Mm-hmm. And I was 19, 20. I had major imposter syndrome. I had no idea what I was doing.
I don't know.
Right. And I would go, he would train on a gym floor at a church. Mm. And I wouldn't help, I wouldn't lay cones. I would sit in the stands with the parents. Yeah. And I'm just watching every single, and I would write down okay, 10 minutes in he does this, 20 minutes in he does this, and and then I got his cadence. Mm-hmm. And then once I saw him, and then I started coaching games. And I had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And then he came on my sideline and started way more coaching, way more direction, and really he just started just yelling to the kids to work harder and challenge. And it showed me oh, you could coach kids like this. I didn't know. So then I started okay, now I need to go watch him coach games. And it's the exact same thing. And coaches have to be self-starters. Young coaches have to be self-starters. And the coaching development is really go to get on a guy's bench. Go and sit and learn.
You got to show up. You got to show up. And you got to show up for no money. It's a real thing. You gotta
Absolutely.
You got to show up for no money. You know, that was the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing, honestly, for me as a coach. And I don't think I have it figured out by any stretch of the imagination. If you ask me a year from now, I'll be like, yeah, I was a terrible coach a year ago. It's happened every year of my life. You know, but like I'll pop out and see Paul's practice with the guys all the time. If I got 30 minutes, I'll go watch him for 30 minutes. I'm not trying to figure out like, the structure of a 4-4-2. I'm just like watching and seeing like, oh, is there something? Like, what's the thing? I think Paul's a good coach. I think Tommy Moon, his assistant, is fantastic. Those guys are great.
Yeah.
So if I can hear them talk to their players, it's great. Paul works with the youth club in Binghamton as well, and like I'll go watch them work with their youth teams if it's
Is that the Flash Binghamton now? Yeah.
Like if Tommy's out there with his youth boys, I'll stand there for 20 minutes and watch it and see what's he doing.
Right.
I'm not saying you get something new and revelation every time, but I just think if you really want to be good at it, you gotta like just invest yourself in that.
I had another mentor who, this guy, A license, premier license, he was director of coaching for the state of Michigan, and he took an entire year off, and he went and he coached NAIA Madonna in Michigan, and he took an entire year off to go observe Gary Parsons, who was coaching at Oakland University, and all he would do is go and sit and just watch him. And I'm like, you're doing what? You're this accomplished. You're doing all of this, and you're just going to observe.
That's brilliant.
And that's it. Anson Norris would talk about how he would go and watch Dean Smith train.
Oh yeah.
And that's different. That's a different sport. But I would do that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, man. I think it's key. I mean, honestly, it's thankless. I mean, nobody's going to be like, hey, congratulations, you watched a game today. So, I don't know that everybody wants to do it all the time. And, and it's hard lifestyle-wise because now, you could have had the night off, but instead you just went and stood and watched that. Well, now, maybe your wife or husband's mad at you because you went home that night. Like it can be hard, but if you really want to do it, that's the fastest. I think that's the best way to do it.
I hate soccer.